Hello, and welcome to our Performing Arts Medicine presentation titled Dance Teachers Want to Know. This episode focuses on psychological awareness for competitive dancers. My name is Jacqui Haas. I'm a licensed athletic trainer, and I've been working in the field of performing arts medicine for almost 30 years, and I'm happy to be the moderator today. This video is in conjunction with the Bridge Dance Project, whose mission is to build bridges between the competition and commercial dance community and the dance medicine and science community by providing easily accessible, readily applicable, and personally empowering information. Jan Dunn of Denver Dance Medicine Associates and Casey Jones, COO of Apala Performance Footwear, are the co-founders. Here's a little bit more information about the Bridge Dance Project. We have 3 experienced dance instructors from here in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area who present valid questions about experiences they have had with their students. We also have 3 internationally known psychological experts who will be responding with pertinent information to help these dancers overcome adversities. Our goal is to provide you with evidence-based practical tools and strategies to be psychologically prepared to compete and perform at your best. So let's get started. Our first instructor is Johnnie Lyn Jacobs-Percer. She has her master's in dance from Ohio State University. She has her PhD in education from the University of Cincinnati, and she has a question regarding performance anxiety. Our first expert is Paula Thomson. She's a former dancer, a clinical psychologist, a professor at California State University, a choreographer, and movement coach. Here we go.
Hi, Jacqui. Thank you for the nice introduction and inviting me into this project. I have a question. I teach in many different competition schools in the area, and I'm finding that my students in the studio are very confident, very strong, they perform well, but when they get to competitions, they just kind of fall apart. It's being next to the other competitors. And I was wondering what I could do to help them in the studio to overcome this kind of anxiety.
Thank you, Jacqui, and thank you, Johnnie, for this really great question. First of all, performance anxiety is very, very common. And when it happens, a dancer normally builds dread. It's a horrible thing to experience. And of course, they're going to remember it and be really afraid it will happen again. So what will happen is their focus will shift from the excitement of performing and competing to fear that they will mess up. But there are several strategies that can help. And always remember, every dancer has their own individual differences. So one thing may work for one dancer and one may not work for another dancer. So you just keep trying. But here are some of the most reliable ones. First of all, establish that perfectionism is never the goal in competition, nor is it the goal as a dancer. Also, help them train to have positive goals and positive feedback. Really let them focus on what are the goals that they're trying to achieve. Is it transitions? Is it communicating the emotional journey that they're going to take the judges on and their audience? Encourage them to be able to name some of the good things and that they can share them with themselves and actually go up to others, their competitors, and say, I really loved how you did this thing, so that their brain knows how to identify positive things, what really worked. Third, let them know that the body responds to arousal. It gets more excited or more frightened, but it's the brain that is interpreting the situation as a fear event or a positive, exciting event. So you're going to have to help them shift their brain from that threat response to a positive excitement that they're competing. In order to help them do that, you can set up practice sessions where you heighten the stakes. You can even do adversity training where you throw obstacles at them so that they can really get facile with problem solving in the moment. Here are a few basic psychological skills that require practice daily. Breathing, focusing on the breath. Also doing a mindfulness or meditation practice helps many, many dancers. Helping them recognize and establish clear, specific goals for each class and how are they going to assess them. When they get feedback about these goals and whether they're getting close to them, help them so they don't personalize it. It's not that they're a good or a bad person, or even that they should be accepted or rejected. It is feedback that is constructive, and they can take that forward into future practicing or future competitions. Help them focus on their concentration on the task. Shift their focus away from their emotional responses. However, when you're preparing, help them identify what is the emotional journey of this dance. What are the things I'm going to concentrate on to communicate to the audience? That's different than focusing on their own emotions and what they may be doing right or wrong. So you're focusing on the task, including the expressive task of communicating to an audience. Pre-performance preparation is vital. Good sleep, good diet, a routine, a warm-up that is continued for most practices, and simple rituals that help ground the dancer. Also, be very, very specific that what you've asked them to do, their skill level can match the challenge. When a challenge and a skill are balanced, optimal flow is often going to be occurring for these dancers. Lastly, let them know that they can share their love for dance, that people want to receive that love. They want to feel the positive, expressive art of dance, so that it's their opportunity to share that with others. It is a generous gift that they can give, and only they can give. These psychological skills, as I said, do need to be practiced daily, just as much as technique needs to be practiced. And they can focus on how to improve a turn, but they can also focus on how to find positive elements about what worked. Remember, everyone has performance anxiety at some point in their career. Normalize that. Let them know that that may happen, even if it hasn't happened yet, and help them so that they can recover from that and move forward into future competitions, being able to implement these psychological skills. Thank you. I hope that helps.
All right. Thank you to Johnnie Lyn and Paula. We believe that using the psychological skill training that Paula suggests can be really helpful in reducing anxiety at competitions and performances. Our next instructor is Jessica Foote. She was a professional performer. She is a licensed athletic trainer specializing in performing arts medicine and director of dance at her studio. Our next expert is Leigh Skvarla. She is a former dancer and gymnast, has her master's in counseling, has her doctorate in exercise and sports psychology. She is also a national certified counselor for dancers and athletes in the Pittsburgh area.
Hi, I'm Jessica. So I've noticed that when teammates start to get competitive with each other, or one starts to feel a little intimidated by another teammate, that's when the bullying and belittling starts. So my question is, do you have any suggestions on how to prevent that before it happens? And for those kids who are being bullied by some of their teammates, do you have any suggestions on how to prevent that from damaging their self-esteem and their performance quality?
Thank you, Jessica, for asking this question. Interpersonal relationships are complicated, and perhaps this is especially heightened when students are competitive by nature and also going through adolescence or young adulthood. There are lots of concrete strategies that you can implement as the dance instructor to help mitigate and prevent bullying behavior from happening in the first place. So my first suggestion would be to make sure that you are explicitly and clearly stating the ethical values and expectations for students in your studio, and work with this cohort to develop shared rules or standards by which they can hold each other accountable. and not being afraid to also talk about the corrective measures or corrective actions that could take place and that dancers may face if they perpetuate bullying or other inappropriate conduct for your studio. You could also consider publicly posting these expectations for dancer conduct in high traffic areas like lobbies, locker rooms, dressing rooms, bathroom stalls, other common spaces where people are going to be prompted to reflect on their own behaviors. A secure and anonymous reporting system should also be implemented to help victims disclose the situations they may find themselves in. Second, I think it's very important for the adults in the studio space to role model interpersonal effectiveness skills, to make it known when they mess up or they hurt someone else's feelings, really highlighting the golden rule, treating others the way that we want to be treated, and being mindful of how you're interacting with other adults in the studio space. Thirdly, I recommend that you have your dancers engage in activities that can promote theory of mind skills development. In other words, practicing empathy and compassion for one another. You could have dancers tap into how another person is feeling through small group dialogue, skits, or choose to incorporate emotion-focused storytelling into your routines and into your choreography that you use throughout the season. There are lots of resources about this kind of approach that are available online or through your dance students' schools or other educational programs. Finally, I'd ask you as the teacher and your fellow colleagues to consider both the number and the intention of the comparisons that you make when you're in the studio space. So for example, if you stop class to show what one person is doing perfectly or praising a few students for doing something right the first try, you might be inadvertently or unintentionally promoting a polarizing mindset of good versus bad, right versus wrong, talented versus not talented. And so it can be helpful to establish a culture of inclusiveness by restricting or eliminating this kind of language from your vocabulary, and instead encouraging individual improvement and progress within each dancer. We're also posing the question to the group, who wants to demonstrate this skill? Who wants to go first across the floor? Now, shifting to the second part of your question, I do have a few recommendations to share with the dancers who may be experiencing bullying or being the victims of other belittling behaviors. First, create a safe place in your head where you can go mentally and emotionally when someone is hurting your feelings and where people's words are less likely to get to you. This could be a beach, a mountaintop, even the safety of your own bedroom closet. Or you can take this into the performance mindset and envision your costume being a suit of armor, the hairspray that you spray being a line of defense, or imagine being surrounded by a dome of light that enables you to keep positive energy, adaptive, healthy energy in, and sources of negative energy on the outside. I also want to encourage you as a dancer and as a human being to use your voice to advocate for change in your studio if you notice that this is happening to yourself or happening to other people. While it certainly can be isolating and scary to speak up, I think the long-term lesson that you're teaching yourself and that you're teaching other people is that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Now, there is a tip, a mental tip or a mental skill that I often suggest to performers, and that is to be both curious and critical of the language that you're using inside your own head and asking yourself who put that language there. For instance, if somebody says to you, "You aren't very good at turns," pause and ask yourself, is that a fact or is that an opinion? A lot of times the voice inside our head isn't super kind and it isn't super accurate. And we have a tendency to internalize other people's opinions of us as truths when they are not. So in this example, one friend can say, "I think you're amazing at turns." Another friend could say, "Your turns need some work." Both of them could be right because it's simply a matter of perspective. Lastly, we do know that especially for young adults here in the United States, suicide is one of the leading causes of death, right behind accidents. So if you or someone that you know and care about is being bullied or otherwise belittled, it is important to find a trusted adult with whom you can share these experiences. Absolutely, it can be scary, it can be daunting, it can be anxiety-provoking, it can be lonely. But finding a family member, a mentor, a dance instructor, a school counselor, or some other person who you can confide in, this can be a life-saving choice. And so I urge you to make it, because life can get better when you speak to somebody who cares.
Thank you to both Jessica and Leigh. These facts will be helpful for dancers in promoting inclusiveness at the studio. Our next instructor is Jeaunita Olowe. She has her bachelor's in African Studies. She's an international teacher in African dance forms, ballet, jazz, modern, Latin. She is also artist in residence here for the Cincinnati Public School System. Her question centers around parental involvement. Our next expert is Joanne Lafleche. She is a clinical and dance psychologist. She has her master's in dance and her graduate studies in somatics. She also is a performance psychology teacher to dance educators in Quebec.
Hello and greetings. My name is Jeaunita Olowe, Chateau Weathersby Olowe, and I am part-time dance faculty for Northern Kentucky University, and I teach African dance forms. So today I have two questions that I would like to pose. My first question is, how can I help some of my students whose parents are a little bit overbearing or who might be pushing their children too hard in dance? My second question is, if I have a student who loves to dance for recreational purposes, but their parents keep pushing them, how can I help them overcome and adjust that?
Thank you, Jacqui, for your introduction, and thank you, Anita, for your relevant question about parental over-involvement. As elite dancers enter adolescence, many well-intended parents walk a fine line between being supportive and becoming overbearing in the eyes of the youngster. For example, interfering parents may start criticizing dancers' performance, offer rewards for competition achievements, or tell the teacher what to do. Family conflicts will then occur when these boundaries are crossed too often, leaving both parties feeling hurt and misunderstood. As a neutral third party and trusted adult figure, when a student confides in you on this matter, you can help him or her restore a positive communication with the overbearing parent. This helping role, however, requires a delicate balance between reserve and support in order to prevent taking sides or intruding the intruder. I suggest that you adopt a student-centered, empowering approach based on a non-judgmental attitude and active listening and self-questioning abilities. This should help the student to reflect more deeply on personal feelings, needs, and limits towards elite dance. Generally, I don't recommend that you intervene directly with the parent unless it is absolutely necessary. Instead, you may try to support the dancer in engaging in open and constructive discussion with the parent. This being said, the following intervention strategies may help your student to prepare beforehand. First of all, view the parent-child relationship as a complex and dynamic system that's co-constructed over several years. Most dancers began at a very early age with the support, obviously, of their parents, who invested a great amount of time, energy, and expense on their artistic project. For years, they formed a close and gratifying team together. However, over time, teenagers and parents alike may have developed opposite desires, expectations, or goals towards dance practice that are not always conscious or explicit for either one. In other words, when dancers talk to you about the parental pressures that they are experiencing, their views may be quite different from those of their parents. Eventually, these perceptions should be clarified with the parents once the student has gone through a positive and self-reflective process on their dance experience. So you can help them by start questioning the student about their past experience. Why and when did they begin dancing? What joys, accomplishments, and challenges did they encounter? You can also discuss with the student about their current motivation to dance. Why are they dancing now? And identify both internal and external motives. What sources of satisfaction and frustration have affected their passion to dance? And what has changed recently in their lives? For example, has puberty started, or conflicting interests, or parental pressure that's become way too strong. You can also help them explore future goals inside and outside of dance. What possible careers are they dreaming about, and what is the place of dance in their lives from now on, vocational or recreational? You can also help them explore family relations. What are their perceptions of the parents' expectations towards their dance practice? And what are their own needs, expectations, discomforts regarding the parents' involvement? You can help them to explore the communication gap that has been created between the teenager and the parent. You can also try to teach them some basic communication skills. For example, to teach them how to express feelings and needs in a personal and non-blaming manner, or using active listening, that is to place themselves in the parent's shoes and try and reflect back to the parent about what they've understood, and help them also explore win-win situations. And lastly, you can give them support regarding that conversation that they're preparing with the parent. So for example, beforehand, making a trial run with them, or afterwards, reviewing the result. Thank you very much.
Yay, thank you to Jeaunita and Joanne. These are excellent strategies for promoting healthy family relationships, which are beneficial for all dancers. I am so grateful to all the presenters for their time, their talent, and their passion for working with dancers. I would also like to thank Bonnie Robson for her assistance and encouragement throughout the entire process. Huge thank you to Chris Strobel at Northern Kentucky University's Norse Media program for the editing and production of this video. I hope you found our presentation helpful. The information presented today is recommended for all dance institutions, academies, companies, studios, artistic directors, choreographers, teachers, competitive dancers, and parents. Please consider having psychological awareness discussions with your students. You can use these strategies to promote mindfulness, good health, and emotional wellness. If you have any questions or feedback, you can certainly email me. Thank you again, and stay healthy out there.